then it continues.
It continues.
Right?
But months later.
Oh, months later.
Yeah, it was probably a year. It was over a year later.
Before we get into that, did you hear anything in this time frame? Was there follow-up from anybody like, here's your report number, this is what we're doing?
I think at some point we looked up like the case,
charges.
something. Yeah, like the charges or something.
Okay.
But no one ever contacted us to tell us what was going on or whatever happened. Yeah. I think we've somehow streamlined and figured out that he posted bail the next morning.
Yeah. So you can just threaten to shoot somebody, have a weapon on your person, go spend the night in jail after threatening multiple people, and just be let loose.
Apparently.
And narcotics and paraphernalia in the bag as well. So it's...
And be a convicted felon.
Yeah. So
lovely.
In another state. So
that's awesome to know that that's just released to walk around on the streets with us and our families.
Yeah. So it was a little frustrating, the more information that we found out as time went on. But we eventually just got emailed and phone calls and subpoenas from the public prosecutor.
Okay.
And from there, that was a long process of court getting rescheduled, him pushing it back. It was like over a year of push back the case.
It was a really long time because by the time we ended up in court, my son was already like 4 months old, maybe. So,
oh my gosh.
At least a good time frame of a year plus some change that we didn't even step foot into a courtroom for any of this. And let alone, I didn't personally want to go to court because I didn't want to sit in front of this man and then him know exactly who I am.
Yeah. And see him again.
And look him in the eyes and have this conversation on the stand about the incident.
That already has a criminal background.
Yeah.
And now I know that we've discussed previously, you're like, look, now he's going to know my first and my last name, and that I encouraged it to get taken this far.
Yeah. And he's going to know what I look like.
Child.
I have a child. I have a family at home. He can look up public records and see my address.
Oh my
he
God.
knows where I work. Like, it's intimidating and it's scary. And I had a long conversation with the courts. Like, can I testify anonymously? And they said, absolutely not. You've been subpoenaed. You must show up in person.
So did anyone help prepare you to go to court?
Just from the public prosecutor went over kind of what questions might be asked, but other than that, we weren't provided really any other resources. It was a little frustrating. I was lucky that I've been to court a few times to testify as a paramedic, but that was your first time.
That was my first time.
It was pretty rough in preparation wise for her.
And being a new mom, like postpartum, you already have all the emotions of life going on, and then throw that into it. It was not a enjoyable experience.
No. So you get subpoenaed to go to court, so you have to go.
Yeah.
And you show up, and you guys have to go together. Mm-hmm. And what did that look like? I haven't personally been to court for anything healthcare or my job related. So if you can just kind of paint me the picture.
So we kind of like planned to meet around the same time. So we got like the date, the time, the courtroom where it would take place. And then the like advocate who had been reaching out to us said, like, I'll meet you guys outside the courtroom. We can answer any further questions. So we kind of just planned to meet there. So we met up that morning, sat outside the courtroom till we were asked to be brought in. But in that time frame, like his family members, everyone's like sharing a hallway.
Yeah, we were just passing the hall with each other.
Like,
you
no
can
big
feel
deal.
them all staring a hole into the side of your
gun
head.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's so awkward.
It's uncomfortable.
And you feel like you're at fault for something, but you're not. But you feel like I was feeling guilty that I was there doing this, but it's to protect us in healthcare.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Like you do it once, they're probably going to do it again, or they've already done it.
Yeah.
And that's so uncomfortable. I feel like there's so many better ways to handle that help keep healthcare workers safe, because that's all you're trying to advocate for in the first place. And then you kind of didn't really have a choice to show up because of the level or the capacity of this threat in this like experience.
Yeah.
So you go into the courtroom, and I know that Ammon shared with me kind of what they tried to swing, because I think my jaw dropped to the floor, and I'm like, what the actual heck is going on here? So if you want to share about that.
Yeah, I think maybe they were pulling out whatever they could, but it took me by surprise because the public prosecutor pulled me out into the hallway after she had met with the defendant's lawyer, and she goes, "Okay, I just want to let you know, just be prepared because they're gonna try and accuse you of robbing this man." And I asked, "What do you mean?" And they're gonna try and flip it around, and now he's gonna say he's asking if you want legal representation now because they're claiming that you aggravated robbery on him by taking his bag with a reasonable fear of my own life.
So instead of it being that you were threatened with a weapon, now they're trying to twist it and say that you robbed a patient of the weapon they shouldn't have brought in the first place. And then you're now like, okay, do I need legal representation? Like, this is not how I pictured this going. Like, and then you almost second guess yourself.
Yeah.
Did I do something wrong? Was I not supposed to take this weapon away from a patient that, okay, yeah, fine, just shoot me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's fine. Just all of us.
Because
I am still shocked.
Yeah, I don't care who you are. Even if you were the defendant's lawyer, if you were at work and someone said that to you, no reasonable, common sense person is going to be like, "Oh, okay, you're going to shoot me. Okay, reach into your bag. That's cool.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Do it right here.
Yeah. Through and through, please."
Yeah.
So.
Make it a good scar.
It was, I couldn't believe it. And I lost a little bit of faith in our legal system.
Mm-hmm. Well, me too. Just hearing this story, I'm like, how?
He ended up not getting any gun charges on some. My understanding is that the year that we went to court, they signed something saying that if you're a non-violent felon, whatever you were convicted of for a felony was non-violent, you're still allowed to possess a weapon, a firearm. So he got off on that. So he originally was a prohibited possessor from his felony convictions in other states, but apparently they were non-violent. So he's still allowed to have a gun now.
But just who cares? They brought it into a hospital.
So
where is the protection
dismissed.
from
Every
that?
Every ounce of it got dismissed.
So it was.
So was he ended up charged with anything that night?
It was like narcotics.
He must, like, we didn't go through the bag.
Yeah.
Once we saw the firearm, that was enough of like, okay, there's plenty of evidence that we don't need anything in here. But he must have had a bunch of either on him, I guess, or in his bag, paraphernalia and drugs, because that's the charges he got from the night.
Wonderful.
And the threats.
Yeah, he got some threat.
I think it was threats to peace officers and the threats he was making on the way out that he was going to shoot up the hospital. Mm-hmm. So,
but he also was able to get out the next morning after making a threat to shoot up a hospital.
Right across the street.
Right across the street from
the hospital.
Jail. Okay. It's just awful. Yeah. I can see how people in our world say that they don't want to press charges because these are the stories that the results that end up after these cases. And you guys had to go from beginning from experiencing the actual aggression and threats, and any experience with a gun that isn't just like at a shooting range is kind of unpleasant. And then they get out the next day. You have to live with it. You have to keep working because it's busy. And you don't get time to process. I think, Bailey, you were telling me, like, you didn't even go home and shower. Like, you had to go to the airport and hop on a flight. I had a flight to catch
at, like, 8 a.m., so I left the hospital, walked through security, never even changed out of my scrubs, and flew to Mississippi that day. Like, I never sat down and processed it. And the whole, like, time I'm trying to get through the airport and stuff, you know, the organization's calling me and wanting statements and things, and I'm like, I have this family trip that we have had planned, like, unfortunately, like, I'm going to disconnect for a couple of days, but I mean, yeah, it just, I never sat down and truly like, what would life have been if this didn't happen? Like, had my coworker not been in the room with me, like, thank goodness we are such a team oriented group. And I wasn't in there solo because, like I said, I was so worried about the comments and the way he was speaking to me. I wasn't even looking at the bag.
No. So, yeah, props to you, Ammon.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
I think that our team is excellent and we do a lot of that stuff, but you're literally a hero.
No, I honestly wouldn't say that. I think just because of working fire and working EMS for so long, my situational awareness, that was always a big thing. Like, because you're walking into someone's house, you don't know, and sometimes addresses get put out wrong. I've walked into the wrong house before on a call, so it's just being aware was all I was trying to do. But I mean, even to the testifying on the stand, it was insulting because the way that the defendant's lawyer was spinning it was that we were colluding together to get this man in trouble for something that he didn't do. He was concerned that we were giving statements near each other.
Yeah, that the police officers didn't pull us into separate rooms. I'm sorry, because everything
How are you supposed to control that?
And
It's not
everything's happening so fast, and they know that we have a duty to do. They also are dealing with other things actually that are going on in our ER in another department of it. And so they're just trying to get the information they need to also get this individual out of here. But now we're the bad guys because we weren't pulled apart to give two separate statements. So we made a story up. And they tried to say that we were in the room together and that there's no cameras there to prove that we didn't make up the story in the room before we came out and gave the statement or something. Totally, you're like not even reasonably like stated. And we're like,
yeah. So not even to have to like live through that. Then you're basically being told like, oh yeah, it's not even a valid story. They're making it up. Like
by someone who's never even stepped foot in our facility or knows anything about like how an ER runs.
Yeah.
But we're making up stories. And we want to get this man that we've never met in trouble.
Yeah. Again, we're just there to help people.
Yeah.
So as a leader and someone that is trying to make a positive change in how these experiences kind of end up, one, I would like them just to never happen again, but we know that's not going to happen. How could, as a leader, what could have been more supportive for you guys, like during and after, and then for this next time someone experiences this, like what can leadership do just to kind of brainstorm some ideas on any way we can help make people not feel kind of abandoned? You shouldn't have probably gone to court by yourself. Someone should have briefed you. Like you should have had someone there with you. You didn't just experience this on the street. You were in your workplace.
Right. Yeah, I think the organization could have offered some sort of support to us that was never offered.
I mean, every hospital has legal teams and on retainer to utilize for their staff. I don't know if this was because it wasn't a liability thing for the facility or if they felt it was something that we just needed to do on our own. But I truly think that the resources were available and not offered to us to at least say, even if it was over the phone, 5-10 minutes, say, hey, this is normally how it'll go down. They'll probably ask you questions to this degree. This is how long it might take.
Yeah.
So,
or just, I mean, that would be like a bare minimum. I feel like a courtesy. Like, I'm so sorry you experienced this within the walls. And what can I do to maybe make this a little bit better?
And I mean, I feel like once this situation like happened and give it a couple days and the dust settled, there was no follow-up ever.
No.
Like from anyone, it was kind of like as a group and like a team, we'd talk about what was kind of happening with each other. But from higher ups, like no one reached out to see like, hey, are you guys okay from this situation? Like, do you guys need anything? Like it was just the dust settled and we moved on.
I think since that incident, I've at least adopted into my own practice to make sure to like send a follow-up text and check in. And luckily we are such a close group. Like I'm friends with a lot of spouses and I'm like reaching out to the spouse, like, hey, how are they really? Like, is there anything I can do to support? Do I need to rearrange schedules? But that's because I truly care. And I feel like that's not going to be consistent across the board just because there's differences in leadership. There's differences in resources available to do stuff like that. But I think that would be an awesome thing to suggest. Like maybe someone that's listening can encourage some type of support for people that get drug all the way to court for these incidences of just being next to them.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't ask for this to happen.
Right. And I think because it did get drug out for so long, you know, by the time we ended up at court, this situation had gone past.
It's like forgotten.
And 10 other situations have happened, you know, in the meantime. So it's, you know, even for us to go to court and have to recall things and them ask us, like, are you stating everything correctly? Like, tell us the truth, nothing but the truth. Is like, okay, I'm going to recall it as best as I can. But this also was 14 months, 16 months ago. Like, I'm going to do the best I can, but I can't 100% say I'm going to be spot on with what I say.
Yeah. And I think there's probably a lot of improvement we can do with having pre-hospital search for weapons because that could have prevented this whole situation in the first place. And I don't know how that would look, but that's something that maybe we can start advocating for.
I mean, I would just feel like as that crew with that patient in the back of my ambulance, I would have wanted to know what was in the bag.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in kicking and screaming.
Yeah, you kind of take belongings away from people that are making statements and not cooperating, like even just getting them out of your way to try to get an IV or something. And maybe someone would have looked and this whole thing would have never happened.
I think that a good solution may be for the EMS crews in the area to be at least recommended to screen patients' belongings and they may not understand how violent it can be or aggressive people can be in the hospital. I know that they're there a lot, but in my 8-9 years of experience in 911 EMS compared to my 3 years in hospital ER, the ER is far more violent, dangerous, patients being aggressive than it's ever been for me. I worked in downtown San Diego, some rougher parts of San Diego. So it maybe it just needs to be an educational thing for the EMS crews to go through belongings. And I understand that.
And it would keep them safe too. I don't want anyone in our community, medical, fire, police, no one should have to be threatened when you're clocked into a job.
Right.
We for sure didn't sign up for that. I feel like police, you kind of like know you're going to experience something like that. But I remember back in nursing school, and I know I've said this before, we didn't have training on how to handle these situations. And then you get hired in and there's a one-time class on you can't really punch back, but this is how you can avoid getting punched. Like trainings on how to keep you from getting your license taken away. Like you're basically told just to take it.
And in a perfect scenario, you might be able to respond how they want you to. But
I'm like, okay, I've watched my kids do jujitsu. I could maybe repeat some of those moves, but it would be very entertaining.
Also, like the adrenaline's going. You're never going to think through, what was that I learned in that class that day?
Yes. Like if they grab your hair, you're supposed to grab their hand and like push it harder into your head. I'm like, that's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm probably going to scream and like stop, drop, and roll. Like, I don't know what's going to go through my head, but it's not going to be like, here, give me your hand. Let me push it harder.
Yeah. It's just not in the job description. And I think the part that is a little off-putting too is that a common response to us is just, it's part of your job or it's part of the job. And it's not. Nowhere in paramedic school, and to the best of my knowledge, nowhere in nursing school to say, this is how you deal with someone who's telling you they're going to shoot you in the head. Like, I can take verbal insults, telling
We've gotten
people
pretty good at it.
Making fun of my unibrow, making fun of my
your name,
my name, my teenage bullshit mustache when I have one. So I can take a lot of stuff like that, but people making physical and violent threats is like it's not great.
No. As much as we have like tough skin, we shouldn't have to do that or hear it or have people come into our workplace. Like you're coming into my house and treating me this way. Like, and then you make demands. I mean, even last night we had kind of a crazy situation where we were literally trying to save someone's life and a patient's on the call light. I have a headache.
Yeah.
And then another nurse from a different side had no idea what was going on. It's like, okay, let me try to find your nurse. And then came back and followed up and was like, I'm so sorry. They're busy literally saving someone's life right now. And he's like, I don't care. I have a headache. And it's just the lack of kind of consideration for other things that are going on. It's just we have such a selfish culture, and there's a lot of aspects that go into it that we can get into later. But it's not what we thought we were getting into going into school with this young, bushy tail, bright eyes, ready to come in and help people with our little nursing hats
Just
on.
want to take care of people
You know,
for a living.
and then you open the door and people are throwing things at you, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's sad that we laugh at getting made fun of or getting called names. Like, we all laugh at
We
it.
have a comparison running joke about what was the best insult we were called today.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we all have a sick sense of humor, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Very
it's sad
poor
that's what
coping
we-
mechanisms or good ones if you think
and in my
about
job
it.
description, I don't sign off every
Yeah.
year that I'm going to get threatened. So we're missing something.
Yeah.
Well, and people wonder why nurses and healthcare providers are leaving bedside in the groves is because people have families. Like, she's got a kid, husband. I have a wife at home. So it's no one wants to take that risk. It's different if you sign up to be a firefighter or a police officer. It's like those are
Kinda
legitimate
hazards you
hazardous
know
jobs.
about.
Yeah, you assume, and you're trained for, not just something that exists that you just tolerate. So
Yeah.
I mean, and then hospitals are understaffed because people are leaving bedside, and that equates to longer wait times, and
It's a whole,
it's just a
domino
snowball
effect,
effect
yeah.
of
it's so true.
chaos.
Now, back to your experience with like the legal system.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many stories that I've had people submit that have been kind of very similar, like, oh, it was just dropped. How can we make that not the case? I'm trying to kind of team up with a few people to figure out like how we can advocate for ourselves more, because I don't think that we should have to kind of take the hit on a legal or judicial system that is overflooded with more severe things, that because we didn't document good enough, or the patient was intoxicated, so they're just going to swing it as a mental health thing anyways, that we should just tolerate getting it just dismissed.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going through some of the statutes again today, just making sure like I'm not speaking not accurately. And it should be an aggressive, now I'm blanking. And I'm totally blanking, but it's a felony. And there's laws that say you may be charged as a felony. And I feel like it's not even getting just bumped down to the next level. So many of them are just falling through the cracks and being completely dismissed. And that in return, another domino effect happens where people aren't even wanting to press charges, because the last time they experienced it, which is an issue in itself, that this has happened multiple times to so many of us, that it just didn't go anywhere.
Or the people that come in and continuously get away with it.
Yeah.
So they continuously act the same way.
Nothing happened to me
and nothing
last
happened
time.
last time. So why am I going to change my actions this time? Like, I've threatened you before, I've spit on you before, or whatever you've done. They don't get charged. So they just keep doing it. And if they're not going to change.
No.
But I think that the way that we make changes, I think as nurses in general, we have to start advocating more for ourselves.
I mean, you
And
guys
not
know
taking this.
that you guys have my support. And I've always said this. I don't care if you don't want to press charges. It's the right thing to do, because hopefully someday, if there's a system change, that they'll look back and be like, wow, there was this many incidents with this person, that maybe there'll be a progressive punishment or something that'll be like, whenever the final straw like lays out, that someone will actually be held accountable for their choices.
I know whenever I've filed something, it's like, hopefully maybe this one will be the one, but
Yeah. But then the communication behind it and being told what the status is and what you can do, or if it's dismissed, I feel that we're the ones that experience it. But the kind of common commentary is that you're the last person to find out what happens.
There's something wrong when I have more than 3 friends in the ER that have been assaulted at least twice each, and nothing's ever come to fruition from any of
They've
them.
never even gone to court for it because it's never even made it that far.
They won't even attempt to prosecute anymore, and it's to be honest, at the end of this whole process, I don't want to speak for you too, but I really feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah.
And
look at the impression it leaves
Yeah.
that you guys did the right thing and took it this far, and still nothing happened.
I mean, there's signs all over our hospital, aggressive behavior, and
Will not be
tolerated and be prosecuted. And turns out that's not.
Really, it's an
not the
empty
case.
Yeah.
threat at this
Yeah.
point.
It's an empty threat, and I can appreciate the signs up because I know the sentiment is right in putting it up, but it's like you said, it's an empty threat. It's not
Until we fix the whole process.
Yeah. So
I feel that there's strides being made to keep us safe in our workplace, but it's not just that as the problem. It's what happens after the fact and what we can do to make our people feel supported to take it that far. But when we do take it that far, we then have to rely on a legal system to do the right thing. And maybe there's more resources or something we can do to encourage these to actually get prosecuted at the right level, because people are getting away with it and it's damaging morale and retaining good quality experienced employees.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse if someone doesn't do something.
And I don't know if like at an organizational level, if like our legal representation, if they start getting involved, if there would be change. But I mean,
It's
seems
a good
like,
idea.
Yeah.
We can absolutely try to bring it up and talk about it. I mean, I'm not here to complain without trying to help find a solution. And I think that that's why you guys are here too, is you guys have a story to tell, and we don't really want that to happen to another person.
Because one of these threats is going to turn into something more than a threat.
And I enjoy my job too much to let it keep happening.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for sharing. I'm sorry if it made you kind of relive the event and have any type of like anxiety or discomfort with that. But I think it's so important that you guys are open to talking about it. I think that that's healthy, especially when we can kind of brainstorm ideas on potentially someday fixing these situations.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's situations like this that paint a picture of like, this was a good catch. And although things didn't happen at the back end, like this is a scenario that maybe we can use to grow and learn from. Like, and I know our organization has grown and learned from this situation and other situations and has put in measures to protect us. But it's like, now how do we get this out?
What's the next step?
Yeah. Like, how do we continuously use this scenario to help change
all of us?
Yeah.
Because it's like a global issue at this point.
It is.
But there has to be improvement. You can only really go up from here. So, and I am positive that we can make an impact. And so I just want to say thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I am also always told to ask you guys to listen, like, subscribe, share it if you guys can, because the more views and the more engagement that we get, hopefully we can just make a bigger impact for my organization, for every organization, and for nurses, medics, techs, firefighters, police officers, just everybody. I think that we all deserve better. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Talk Cardia.